Good evening and welcome to the Trading the Tech show for Thursday, October 8th, 2020. So, um, I want to kind of get into the charts tonight and take a look at each and every one. So, we're going to kind of get right to it. I refrained from doing so this morning on the daily market overview show, even though there were some moves and things that I thought were interesting there. We did cover a couple of things this morning, but we didn't go through all of the charts because that's really the purpose of this particular show. So kind of held off until now. And so I want to kind of get in and just maybe we'll start right at the top. We're going to start with the Aussies and just kind of work all the way down through the charts and just show what we see at this point in time. We know that it's been a bit of a topsy-turvy type week, a lot of uncertainty, and now we are coming off of the vice presidential debates too. That just finished maybe about a half an hour ago or so. So we've got a lot kind of going on at this point in time in our markets, in our news, and then of course we have the fundamental news that goes along with that. So it's causing the markets to have volatility, which is good because we're able to get movement in the market. When we have movement in the market, we have opportunity. So let's jump right in and take a look at the charts, and we're going to analyze them according to the way that we always do. All right. And we're just going to look and see what the charts read today. So looking at this Aussie CAD on this 30-minute chart, you can see that we are in a downward trend here. We have wide open trend to the downside. All of our moving averages are in order. For those of you that have been watching the show, you know how that goes. 720, 200, 100, 50, 21, 8. So they're in order to the descending, in a descending fashion. So they're in order to the downside, which means we have open trend to the downside. Now, the wider they get, the more strength the trend has. But there's a point when they get too wide, and then the rate will snap back. So we see as the rate gets away, one of the things I see all the time and I talk about all the time is here's our 50 in blue, and the rate pulling away from the 50 and then kind of snapping back to it. So we tend to do that quite a bit. But and so in these downtrends, we're looking for those pullbacks to the 50 or maybe to the 100. So looking at what we currently have now, we're pulled back right now to the 21. We haven't quite met the 50 just yet. So we don't have an opportunity really for a trade right now that's going to put us in, make us feel like this is going to, be a great trade for us to take right now. Now, if you're kind of contrarian to the market and you're looking at this and saying, okay, this looks like a breakout bounce, could be, but I really don't want to break out bounce and opposite the trend. So typically I don't want to do that. Typically I want to do it kind of, in direction of the trend. But if you look at it, technically it is because we had this low created here. We bounced, we rolled around, which is what I like to see in the breakout bounce. I don't like to see it come directly back down. I like to see it kind of go up and then roll over and come back down, and it's testing that level, and it didn't break. So if breakout bounce, stands firm, then it should trade off to the upside. But we do have full trend to the downside, so we might get a small trend, a small push to the upside, but then the trend takes over, and then maybe we get some more push to the downside as well. So in looking at it that way, I'm not really interested in taking a breakout bounce trade to the upside. Not saying that it would be wrong if you did that, but it is kind of going against trend. So that's, where I kind of falter on that. So there's just a few of those things, I'm trying to be more disciplined with just trend-based trading because I've traditionally, I don't know why, just in my desire to trade, I've always tended to be like a contrarian trader. I don't know why. It's just, and I think it has to do with the market, just the way that it pulls back a lot of times. Though it's in the way that the market moves, it tends to pull back and retrace a lot of the moves that it makes. So I tend to be more of a contrarian type trader when it comes to that type of movement. But looking at this Aussie yen, if we were to analyze it here right now, we see our 720 is here in the middle. We see that the other moving averages are actually in order to the upside, but they're all in a very, very small range here. we see that at about, we're sitting at about 75.67, and right across that line has been a level of resistance for us. So since we have order to the upside, rate is above the 720. The idea here is that we may actually break this resistance level here at 75.67 or so. We may break this resistance level. So we're going to see, let this, we're going to see if this will develop for us into a trade to the upside. I have a feeling like that might, actually happen for us. On this Aussie New Zealand, on the 30-minute chart here, we also have trend to the upside. Everything except for the 200. Oh, excuse me, I had to sneeze. Everything except for the 200 jumping over the 720 at this point in time. Everything else is in order to the upside. We did trade a little bit away from the 50. We did, just kind of push away from the 50, and then now we're pulling back again. That's pretty typical behavior. But right now the rate sits on the 8. Sorry about that, just had to sneeze a little bit. They come in threes, so hopefully that was the last one. But we see that the 200 is just about to cross the 720, but all the other moving averages are in a trend to the upside. So here we're looking for pullbacks to our 50 and maybe our 100 before we take our trades to the upside. And it may not look like we're going to get that, but typically we do. Typically during the trend, when we have trend, we do get that pullback to the 50 or the 100, sometimes even the 200. So just depending on how early, but this is early in the trend right now. Rate is well above the 720. So if I'm looking for anything, I'm looking for long trades to the upside on the Aussie New Zealand. We had several trades today based on the auto traders that were trading to the upside. Now this particular trade that we have here is from before, and so we're just still waiting on the sell trade. We'll see as that improves and then the account improves, we may be able to just get out of it, or we may end up with a profit. Remember, we only get out when it's advantageous for us to get out of a trade. We don't get out because of how much it's losing, because we size the position small enough where we don't worry about it if it travels against us for a while. It's still within the range that the pair trades. So as long as it's within that range and not just exiting that range too much, we let it run. Here's the Aussie US on the 30-minute chart as well. You can see that we're below this 720 moving average. And then the 200 is kind of lined up here, and the 100 is lined up, and then the 50 lines up with that as well. Now the 21 and the 8 are kind of piled on top of the 50 right now. They're actually pushing a little bit above it. But in my opinion here, I feel like maybe we still head to the downside if this trend continues. It's easier to continue trend in the break than to break it. But we'll see what happens here. So if we're, looking for moves, we're looking for a trade, back across, the 50 and the 100. So right now we're sitting on the 100. So that means this 50 is wide open. So if I'm placing a trade to the downside, it's going to be here on my 50. My 50 in blue is here in this little bit of scrum here. So let's see, let's put our crosshair on it. It's right about here. It looks like 71.35 or so would be my short. That's where I'd be interested in going short. Other than that, the only other thing I would do if I was looking for a long trade out of this, I would look for a Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low. And right now we're sitting on the 38.2. We've actually hit as high as the 50 already. So had I been looking to do a reversal, retracement trade, that's what I would have been looking at. So we actually have gotten to the 50 already. So this is too late to actually come in here and trade. We're just kind of consolidating it off to the right now. Let me take this fib off so that it's not confusing us here. Delete that. But right now, I'm below the 720, so that would preclude me, particularly, in my style of trading, from taking this move to the upside. So you really have to just know what your style of trading is, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're willing to risk. And there is no one way that's going to win 100% of the time. um, you're just looking for a high percentage, maybe 60% or more winners, and then your losses to be smaller than what your average wins are. And that's very difficult. I think that's the hardest thing, because when we get winners, we tend to cut them short. And so I'm going to be practicing, more discipline as far as letting the trades run a little bit more when they are positive, because there's a lot of gains that can be had if we're letting our trades run. And it also, when that trade is on, it's preventing you from getting into another trade. Typically, we only trade one lot at a time for these pairs. One set of lots anyway at a time for these particular pairs, because we have first in, first out rule for American brokers. So it's just easier to trade one time and to put your lot size on, and then trade against multiple currencies, trade multiple currencies instead of, putting multiple entries on one particular currency pair, and then having to sort out which one went on first, and then having to close them in that order, because you can get into trouble with that and be stuck in orders that are positive, and you can't close them because you need to close the negative order first. So that becomes a real issue for us. So I like to just, place one trade per pair on at any given time. And that kind of keeps us out of that trouble. Now, if we look at this CAD yen, this is a 15-minute chart. I don't know why it's on a 15-minute chart. I'm going to go ahead and change that over to our 30. But on the 15-minute chart, you can see, it's on the right, on the left side here. You can see on the 15-minute chart, we're in full trend. And here on the 30-minute chart, we're on full trend as well. So all of our moving averages are in order to the upside. We are, trading above the 21 right now. Rate is sitting on the 8. So the expectation, it's going to continue to the upside, but every once in a while you get these pullbacks, right? So this is what we're going to be looking at. We got one here and we got one here, and we'll cross over the 50 or, the 100, like I said, sometimes the 200 or the 720. So we're going to be looking for the pullbacks here and seeing if we can take those trades to the upside. On the Swiss yen, kind of the same thing going on there. We've got full trend to the upside. We're above the 720. We're getting a little bit of resistance kind of up here where we are about this 115.61 level. And then from there, I think that we continue up to, continue up. But we're going to get some pullbacks. Here we got a little bit of pullback past the 50. So, it would have been a little tough to drop an order right there on the 50. Maybe we drop our order on the 21 instead. So, so maybe we drop our order on the 21 instead. I'm not a great fan of that per se. I would rather use the 50 or the 100 for those pullbacks, because I want it to pull back strongly before I go forward. But we can see direction. We definitely have direction here, and there's not a real confusion about what's happening there. If we look at the Euro Aussie on this 30-minute chart, we also have trend to the upside here. The 8 is flirting around with the 21 there. The 50 is really, really close to both of them. Maybe that's because we've got this big red candle here. Maybe we're going to get a little bit of a pullback. We'll see if it pushes back below this 50. Here we were testing the 100 a bit. This is what I'm talking about. We'll come down and test these moving averages, and then we can drop our order here on the 50. And if we had done that, then we would have been profitable. Not a whole lot, but we would have been profitable somewhat. We do have a little bit of lower highs going on here. I do see that, but I don't think I would be discouraged by that. I would be looking for the pullback. Maybe there's a stronger pullback that's coming. So that's what I'd be looking for. But everything else says to me, trade to the upside. So we don't want to get confused about that. Once we know what direction is, we want to go trade in that direction. Looking at the Euro CAD on the 30-minute chart here, we're a little out of order here right now. Our 8 and our 21 are below our 720. Above that, we have our 50, our 100, and our 200. They're kind of setting up, though, to the downside. Once that 100 jumps over the 200 fully, then we're pretty much setting up to the downside. And we're in a situation where it looks like we're kind of pulling back, too. So we're going to wait. We're going to see if this pulls back to that 50. Let's see if we continue a move down, or this turns into, goes back to the uptrend that we were trying to develop. So this is a little bit A little bit hairy right here because even though rate is below the 720, we've got three moving averages above the 720 and two below. And those two below are kind of turning up. So we're going to watch this and see what happens. Plus, I have a buy position up here that I need to clear too. So, so we're rooting for the upside on this one. But that's not how we make our decision. We're going to make our decision based on sound market analysis. So the market is very, very forgiving. So at some point in time, the market's going to trade back towards the level that we got in at. It's just inevitable. Euro Swiss on the 30-minute chart. This is one that sticks, it's been sticking really closely to the 720. It's been, just kind of ranging really hard here. Every once in a while, it'll kind of break out, and then it's right back into kind of this range here that's going on, these small, tight ranges in movement. So they're not really, it's not really my favorite right now to trade. It's just very dull at this point in time. It's not a lot of north and south movement. It's very much left and right? East and west kind of thing. But we see that the moving averages all kind of came together here. We got our 720 on top, but then the 200 and the 100 kind of came together, and now they're popping out the other side. You can just see them barely just popping out the other side. And then we pretty much have trend to the upside. It's just very, very small right now. So it remains to be seen whether this takes, flight at all. Rate is above the 720, so it's a possibility. But it's just such a dull pair for me. It's not something that is my favorite to trade. But there's a lot of consolidation here. With this consolidation can mean that at some point it's going to get together and then it's going to move up. So above this, right now we're sitting at the rate sitting at 107.92. So remember, 108 is a nice round number that's sitting in front of it. It's only about 8 pips away. So there might be some resistance at that 108 mark as well. As far as the euro pound, we are on our 30-minute chart here, and we are not really in order, not really trending here, not just yet. We have our 720 sitting here in the middle, our 50 and our 21 are sitting above it, the 8's below it, the 8's below the 100, but then the 100 and the 200 are in order to the upside. So this is just a mess right now. We did have trend to the upside kind of develop today, but then we pulled far away from that 50 and then we dropped right back to it. Remember, I said that it snaps back to this blue 50 a lot of times. When you see this angle getting away from that 50, we know that that move's probably going to end sometime soon, and then it's going to snap back towards the 50. You can play that actually for a trade if you want to develop something out of it, some type of strategy out of it. You can play that. But right now, just the way that this looks, I'm not interested in this trade because I don't know what's happening here. I don't have any clear direction, and I'm sure there are some other pairs that will provide us clear direction, like this euro yen. Looking at the euro yen, we are in order to the upside. So when I'm looking at this, I'm waiting just on pullbacks past the 50 and the 100. When I get those, then I've got places to place my orders, my pending orders to the upside. So in looking at this, there's nothing about this that says that we're going to the downside at this point. It's all we're really looking for is pullbacks. So we were a little flat here. We're consolidating here as expected, right around this 124.73 area where we sit now. We're just consolidating a little bit, trading off to the right. But when these start to open up, then we're going to open up to the upside more than likely. Euro New Zealand on the 30-minute chart. So look at what we've got here. We've got trend. We've got wide open trend here. It's developing really, really nicely. It's rare when you kind of get these that just kind of develop like this. I won't say it's rare. It happens all the time, but just to see it on the chart and to catch it like this, it's like, oh, okay, I see how this is developing. I see how this is growing. What this can turn into. So this is the move that we're really looking for. We're looking for the trend to kind of straighten out, and then boom, then it pops all of a sudden. And now you've got a really nice trade going on. So you're going to have a lot of those trades that just, maybe they're just yielding a small amount. They don't really turn into this. But then every once in a while they'll turn into this, and then you've really got something cooking on your account. You've got a nice trade, and these are the ones we want to let run because they're going to pay us, a good amount that's going to cover those small losses and things that we might have to take if we have to take them. Just going to add equity to your account. which is important. And so this one, we're looking for pullbacks. The narrative stays the same. The strategy stays the same. We're looking for pullbacks to the 50 and to the 100, and then we're placing our orders above on the 21, the 50, or even on the 100. So we just wanted the rate to get past those levels, to fall down past those levels, and then resume the trend. And then we're just patient because the trend should resume. Here's the Euro US on the 30-minute chart. This one has trend to the upside. Now, this is a little different than what we saw in the Euro Swiss, even though the Euro Swiss kind of looked like this too. It was just a young trend that kind of set up. The Euro US is the most liquid pair. So that means that when there's a head of steam, it's really going to move. So what we're looking for here, we've set up the moving averages. All we're looking for is just a little momentum to the upside, and then we might have something great. Ahead of us here, we're at about 117.70 right now. So we have about 30 pips before we even hit 118 up here. So there's a number of pips up there that we could be going for. So if we're taking an order here on this 100 or this 50, this is kind of the place where we want to be, entering the market. So along this 100 is about the low of the consolidation that we're seeing here. This is the support point that we're seeing. So if the rate comes back down here and touches the 100, I might go ahead and drop my order on the 50. If it drops below the 100 significantly, I will go ahead and drop my order on this 100. And if it comes back our direction, we should have the momentum to push it forward, especially if we get some good news, fundamental news that helps us. On the pound Aussie, we are in trend to the upside as well. You look at it, we were in trend to the upside here, and what did we get? We got this pullback past the 50 down to the 200. We came down here, we got a pullback again past the 200. We actually even hit the 720. But had we had our order on the 200, our 50, or our 100 or our 50, we still would have been profitable, right? Not a huge amount just yet, but we'd be profitable, which is great. So there's a lot of opportunity there. And then if this continues as these moving averages, as they start to blossom it and spread out, then our rate should be moving up to the upside. On the pound CAD, we're looking at it, looks like kind of the opposite, right? We've got kind of trend to the downside, except, our 720 sitting here in the middle again. So this might be changing direction too. We just don't know. Our 8 jumped over our 21 here. It's between the 21 and the 50. But the 100 or the 200, 150, and 21 are in order to the downside. So, we don't know. This is not the most, secure trade that I'd want to be in right now. We're sitting on the 720. We can go either direction from here. So if I'm looking at it for a downside trade, because we were trading below the 720, then we're above the 50. Maybe my order goes here on the red 21 moving average, sitting at 117 or 171.32. I right click trading, set a sell stop, right? Because we want to go short, we want to sell. If the market comes back and puts us in the order and takes us down, then great. If not, and it continues to travel up, then that's fine too. We just don't get involved in the order, hopefully. We're not sitting in it while it's trending the other way. It's okay to be wrong in that situation. You don't have a crystal ball that's going to tell you what's going to happen in the market. You don't have anything that's going to predict that, for you. So we're going to be wrong. We're going to be wrong a lot of times. We really are. But we're just going to make the best of the analysis that we have. So looking at the pound Swiss, this is just not something that I'm interested in right now. Look at the moving averages. They're just kind of out of whack. The 50, the 21, and the 8, they're in order, but they haven't jumped fully over even the 720. They're definitely below the 200, the 100, like just kind of fighting with that right now. It's just consolidating. I think maybe we break out here to the upside. It's possible, that we break out here to the upside because rate's above the 720. So that's telling me that, we're willing to push, a little bit to the north. But I want to see this develop first before I go take that order. Right now, I just really be guessing at what direction it's going to be because it could turn on me, right? So I'm not going to take that order. I'm going to look for something a little more sure. Pound yen, order to the upside. See how fast you can look at that? Like we really just switch to it, and within like 30 seconds, you know what the direction of that, trend is. And that's really cool. That's what I like to teach, especially for young traders, because you need to have confidence in what you're looking at on the charts. It looks crazy sometimes, and it'll look like it's just random and it's just wild, and just bucking back and forth, and crossing back and forth, and you never know what's going to happen. So this is going to give you some confidence and some foundation that you can stand on. Especially as a young trader, this is really important to learn something like this. It's very simple, and your eyes will be trained. I use the same colors all the time, and when I set your counts up on the auto traders and things like that, I use the same colors for everyone. Now, people may change them or whatever they want to do, but I do that specifically so that when you come to the shows, you see the same thing on my chart as you see on yours. And that way, there's not a real discrepancy, and you don't have to guess what's going on. And then it's training your eye when you're watching the shows. Then you're going to be trained. You're training your eye so that when you go to your chart, you go, oh, I see what Derek saw. So it's not like I'm a rocket scientist or anything like that, or really special or anything like that. I just know how to give it to you in a way that you're going to be able to turn around and use it very quickly. And after like 2 weeks of doing this straight, like you did this every day for 2 weeks, just looking at it, you can teach somebody this. You can teach them how to figure out what the trend is, if something's in trend or it's not. You can see people online, you're looking at them or whatever, you're looking at their analysis or whatever, and they're coming up with all these things. And you go to your chart and look and go, okay, this guy is trading with trend, or this guy's trading against trend. And you're going to know in like inside of like 10 seconds, just looking at this chart, you know exactly what's going on. And that's what I want for you. Let's give you that foundation. And it sounds simple. It sounds really simple. It's not always simple. I'm going to tell you that. It's not always the simplest thing. But at the same time, when you have solid foundation, you don't question. You don't have to question unless you're looking for a way to improve it. But you have somewhere to start. So that's why, I'm harping on this and sticking with it, because as people watch this show, they're going to really like the simplicity of it. You don't have time to be in your charts all day long. Well, maybe you do with COVID if you're still sitting at home or something, you don't have anything else to do. But at some point, I think people are getting back to their lives now. People are starting to work. People are starting to, get to be out a little bit more. You might want to go out to dinner with friends. You might want to, do some other things and do some outdoors activities or something. You don't have to worry about sitting in front of your chart all the time. You can spend like 15 minutes and go through your charts and find out what's going on. Pound US, as far as the M30, the minute 30 chart, we're looking at that. We're above the 720, rates above the 720. It looks like it's trying to peak out there and start to straighten out to the upside, but moving averages have not straightened out yet. They're not in order yet. So I'm not too gung-ho about it. I want to see that develop first. The moving averages develop in the right way. Once they develop, then I'm going to be interested in taking, the trades on those pullbacks and looking for the opportunity to trade to the upside. Now, looking here at this New Zealand CAD on the 30-minute chart as well, we see that we have trend to the downside, right? So we've got the moving averages. There's nothing about this that says it's going up. I got this buy trade sitting out there, so I'm going to be transparent. I got this buy trade sitting out there. But, that was at a time when the market was going the other direction. Now it's not. So we're just going to kind of wait it out. I'm not really worried about it. I'll trip out about, the few dollars that's on that one. If I had to close it, the market actually just said to me, okay, because of your balance, because of your free market, because of liquidation or something, you have to decide what to close. I still may not close this one because I know that the market's forgiving and it's going to come back. I'm going to figure out which one is the most advantageous to me to close. Not advantageous to the broker, not advantageous to my fear. I'm only going to trade the one that's advantageous to me, right? And then, we go from there. But right now, looking at this, I'm not really, concerned about it. We know that it's going to pull back towards the 50 or the 100 here, and I'm going to be able to take a short trade off of it. Right? New Zealand Swiss, same thing, right? Trend to the downside. We're just waiting for pullbacks to the 50 or the 100. New Zealand Yen, same thing. this is a young trend that's just kind of starting out. So, maybe this is going to present some opportunity to us. We had the trend kind of start to kick in here. We got into it, but we were already up here beyond the 50 or, we just kind of ranged here for a little bit. But then when that trend kicked back in, it was pretty strong, right? So that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to see if we can catch these trends as they pull back and they can kind of slingshot us forward. So on this one, we've got wide open trend. We'll be looking for a pullback to the moving averages. New Zealand, US, same thing. See how the analysis becomes really, really easy. It becomes really quick, very easy, right? So we've been at this, 31 minutes, and I'm explaining things. So if you're not listening to someone explain, or someone's not talking, it's a lot quicker even than this. You probably do this 15, 20 minutes at your charts, go through all of your charts, figure out what's going on, say, okay, I'm not interested in that. Okay, I'm interested in this. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in this. And it's very, very, very quick. So don't feel like you got to be some kind of genius. Don't feel like you have to have, you do have to have some study. You need to study the components of the market. You do need to go through our online trading, that we provide. You do have to go through the market, and just understand it. You do have to go through the fundamentals and start learning why things move the way they do, what's pushing the market. But at the same time, you can look at these technicals and figure it out, and you can be profitable. So, I see a lot of articles, I see a lot of questions. I'm on Quora and some other, sites. And, I see a lot of questions that people are just asking, can people be consistently profitable? And this is how you do it. You got to have some consistent. There's a lot of people that don't have really, they haven't developed strategy. So, or set up their own strategy or found one that they like. They're just looking for the one that makes a lot of money or something. So they're following all of these different people and maybe have some confusion. But here we're going to keep drilling the same things over and over again so you don't have confusion. And we're going to build you a foundation that's solid. And then from there, we add more strategies. You can work with 2 or 3 strategies. You don't have to just work with one. But even this one is going to be profitable for you, right? It's going to make you successful because success is going to be your discipline. It's tied to your discipline, not to your wins and losses. That will come with the discipline. So we look at the New Zealand US, same as the other New Zealand's, wide open trend to the downside. We're waiting on pullbacks. US dollar CAD starting to develop trend to the downside, right? We're pretty much in trend. The 200 is just meeting up with the 720 here. Should pop below, and then we're looking at a move to the downside, right? But we're going to be looking for a pullback because we want this to kind of slingshot us. We want to pull on back and then release. And when it does, it's going to be pretty strong. We've got this. We can see we had trend up here in this upper left-hand corner. You see we had trend to the downside, pulled back to the 50, slingshot down, pull back past the 50, past the 100, even to the 200. And we had a lot of scrum here, kind of a little bit of a scrum, a little bit of consolidation, but we still ended up going down, right? Pulled back again. We actually popped over, so that would have kind of led us to maybe think about some other things in the market. Okay, what are we doing here? And then we had this move down again. But overall, from a fundamental perspective, we know that the US dollar has been weak. So we might negate the fact that it jumped over the 720 and say, I'm interested in short trades. So, we'd be looking for it to trade under that 720 and then take shorts. You almost can't miss, right? If you go back and look at the charts for the last few months for US dollar CAD or the US dollar pairs, you can see where, you almost couldn't miss, right? So, that hindsight is great, but you can't trade it. So, so let's try to implement it moving forward. This is how we implement it going forward. So if we look at this US dollar Swiss, we had trend to the downside, wide open trend to the downside, and then boom, we traded back towards 50, the 100 and the 200. And ever since then, we've kind of been hanging out here. We're still trading underneath the 720 right now. So we would be looking at trends, trades to the downside if, everything resumes as normal. So if this rate gets much more higher, higher towards maybe the 200, then maybe I'm going to drop my order here on the 150, which are kind of really close to one another here. Maybe I drop it here and then take the short. If the market comes down and takes me with it, then fine. Let's look at the US dollar yen. Why is this a 1 hour? Let's go out here. I don't know what's on 1 hour. It should be on 30 minutes. Okay, so looking at the US dollar yen, we've got trend to the upside, right? Rate above the 720 and then trend to the upside. So it's doing its own thing. So don't assume because it's US dollar in the front, it's going to do the same thing as the others. We kind of saw that in New Zealand. We saw that all of the New Zealanders were kind of doing the same thing. Pretty much amongst the Aussies, you find that, except for maybe the Aussie New Zealand, you find that. And the US dollar pairs tend to do that too, but definitely look at it first. Don't let the other pairs bias you in your decision making. You want to look at it and say, what's the chart telling me it's doing? And right now, we've got trend to the upside. And so it doesn't look like it's ending anytime soon. We don't know. But right now, just looking at it, we've got trend to the upside. So we're looking for pullbacks past the 100 and the 50. And then we got orders to, we can set our pending orders to the upside for long trades. All right. So hopefully you guys got some good ideas for trades out of this, what the setups are, what the better setups are, which ones we might stay away from. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. We're about 36 minutes or so. So I hope that you enjoyed the show. We'll be back in the morning for the fundamentals show as well. So the daily market overview show at 5 a.m. Eastern. So thank you once again. And my name is Derek for iLi Academy. I hope that you enjoyed the show and good night. Bye.